I bought Omori thinking it would be good. I thought it would be great, in fact. Literally, the only reviews of the game were extremely positive. And after playing it through it twice, all I have to say is that I have no idea how they like it. I would tell people this is just my opinion, they shouldn't harass me or say they have bad taste. But unfortunately, considering this is the internet, that's not going to happen. So say I'm a horrible person all you want for disliking a game, I really don't care. So anyways, let's get into this crap. I'm going to explain why Omori is not a great game, so grab a snack or something if you're hungry, I guess, and don't if you're not, and watch this if you want to. Which I imagine you do as you clicked on this. Unless you just did to say it sucks, in which case you probably aren't watching this part. Anyways, enjoy the video, I guess. I'm going to start off this video with the 3 things I liked about the game, so as to not be completely negative. First, I really like the music. Some of it is better than the rest, but all of it is at least fine, and there's quite a few great songs in it. I actually recommend the soundtrack, it's pretty good. Second is the artwork. I'm honestly not a huge fan of the overworld sprites, I feel like they're a bit overly simplistic for the game's aesthetic, but the battle sprites look fantastic. I absolutely love the way they animate and change to hint into their emotions, which we'll get to later. The artwork in the photo albums and stuff isn't bad either. Thirdly, I actually forgot what the third thing was in the process of writing this. Well, that's enough of being positive. Let's get into the negatives. Again, fortunately, main part of this video. The first time I played Omori was like a year and a half ago, and I initially loved it. That was because I used to have terrible taste. But I think I got up to the Sweetheart's Castle section, which we'll get to, and stopped because of how dreadfully boring it was. I picked it back up a few months later and played up to the Humphrey section, when I stopped because of how dreadfully boring it was. Then I picked it back up a few months later and beat it. I only got the bad ending though, because I'd already seen the good ending and didn't feel like putting in the effort to get it, because of how dreadfully boring it was. Recently, I decided to play through it again to the Hikikomori route. I have no idea why. I got to almost the end and stopped, because of how dreadfully boring it was. I think the fact I had to take multi-month breaks in between sessions of this game speaks for itself. Unfortunately, facts can't speak, so I have to speak for it, I'm afraid. Every review and analysis I've watched of this game started with the gameplay, so I'll follow suit. The gameplay in Omori sucks. I've played other RPG Maker games with bad combat, such as Off and Space Funeral. But the difference is, those games are great in every other regard, and don't make you spend much time on the combat. I think you could say Off is a little too combat reliant, but I don't feel like it's too annoying. Meanwhile, Omori makes you spend most of your natural life fighting enemies. And it's not like the combat's fun either. Helix 2, another actually good game, has encounters that last quite a while, but it makes up for that with none of them respawning and just generally having a deeper and more complex combat system. Meanwhile, Omori's combat is incredibly easy and takes like 5 hours per encounter. I've heard some people say that Omori is really tough, and I have to wonder how many RPGs they've played. And I suck at RPGs. I played pretty much everyone on easy mode, and Omori is still pathetic. And it wouldn't be a big deal if the combat wasn't long-winded like in the aforementioned Off and Space Funeral. Unfortunately, it's winded about as long as the Nyamarongo River. Probably longer. Seriously, the combat takes so long. Just the animations take forever, and there's approximately 9,000 enemies in every area. For God's sakes, there's 2 separate achievements for killing 100 enemies of a certain kind. I don't know why you'd ever do that, but it's your choice, I guess. My point is that the combat sucks, and it takes up the majority of the game. The walking gameplay isn't much better than the combat. Most of it consists of solving boring and easy puzzles that take way too long, or trying to solve a puzzle and getting dragged into an extremely long, boring, and pointlessly slow cutscene that accomplishes nothing. It isn't entertaining, funny, or plot relevant. At this point, I think I should summarize the structure of the game. Basically, you go through 5 or so hours of stuff within the main character's mind, called the headspace sections, and then spend like 2 hours in the real world doing side quests and furthering the real plot. The real world sections are honestly not that bad other than the crappy annoying side quests, but the creator at least had the fortunate idea to make those optional. The writing is honestly pretty good in the real world, and the pacing is alright, but unfortunately most of the game takes place in headspace, which is like a mirror version of the real world. By that I mean the writing is terrible and the pacing is abhorrent. Or in other words, it's dreadfully boring. The plot isn't much better. Well, sorta. The headspace story is just awful. The plot surrounds Omori, along with his friends Kel, Hiro, and Aubrey, along with his sister Mary, who supplies save points, as they go on an epic quest to save their friend Basil. Most of it doesn't surround them, instead surrounds some random boring shenanigans happening. Then after approximately 5 hours of some random crap, you fight an easy boss, then you do a real-world section. As I said, the real-world sections aren't that bad, it's just that you barely get to be in them. Even then, they're still flawed in many regards. I'm not planning to spoil anything in this review, but there's a twist near the end no one shuts up about. And to be honest, it's really not that great. So don't get too hyped if for some godforsaken reason your conclusion after watching this is to buy it. But anyways, the plot in the real world is decent. Some of it's overly slowly paced for what it is, but overall it's written fairly well. It's just the fact 2 hours of well-written, enjoyable gameplay is balanced out with 5 hours of mind-numbingly boring, stupid headspace crap that really bugs me. If this game was just the real-world sections, I think it would honestly be a decent little indie game. But unfortunately, the creator felt the need to add in 20 more hours of gameplay to make it worth people's while to play. I could probably rant and nitpick for another 15 hours about random crap like the extremely unfunny dialogue. It's legitimately cringy and extremely hard to sit through for a game apparently made for adults. But I won't, because I don't feel like it would add anything else to the conversation. But I will mention the incredibly annoying fandom that deflects every bit of criticism like they've just used PSI Shield. If you mention pretty much any of the countless negatives, I've just went over a bunch of fans will immediately defend it by just saying it was intentional. If this video is sufficiently popular, I'm sure that oh god, sure you'll even see it in the comments despite me acknowledging it. And this especially comes up when you mention the tedious headspace sections, as canonically they're meant to be an escape from something, I get it, traumatic in the main character's past. If you say something about those segments being bad, people will immediately say, oh, they're so tedious and boring and easy and not fun because they're escape. You just don't understand the point of the game. But something being intentionally bad doesn't make it not bad. Especially when it's as frustrating as the headspace garbage in this game. And that's true for most of their points of contention in Omori. They're just treated as okay because they're intentional. If I punch you in the face but then say it was intentional to show how it feels to be punched in the face, you wouldn't be happy with me, would you? I hope not. Basically, in conclusion, I'm not a big fan of Omori. I think it's objectively an awful game that utterly confuses me why so many people love it so much. I strongly do not recommend it, but if you enjoy it, that's fine. If that's your favorite game of all time, I genuinely don't give a crap. Like what you like, I just wanted to unload some very strong opinions I had brewing in my cranium for about a year now. Hope you enjoy this. And if you just hit dislike before watching anything, maybe don't. Hopefully this video wasn't too dreadfully boring. Bye.